Life will test you. And the sooner you understand that truth, the stronger you'll become. The idea that things should be easy is what causes so many people to quit too early. If you wake up thinking your path will be smooth, you're going to be shocked when the road gets bumpy. But if you wake up already expecting challenges, already preparing your mindset for obstacles, you will start to see problems not as roadblocks, but as part of the training ground for your growth. Life doesn't test you because it wants to break you. It tests you to see how badly you want what you say you want, and it tests you to give you the resilience you'll need when you get there. Imagine if everything was handed to you without effort. You wouldn't value it. You wouldn't be prepared to maintain it, and you wouldn't become the kind of person capable of holding on to success. The truth is, the journey is what transforms you, not just the destination. Think about it. When you were a child learning to walk, you didn't just stand up and move forward perfectly on the first try. You stumbled, you fell, you cried, and then you tried again. That's life in its purest form. Every stumble, every scrape, every fall, it was all part of the process that gave you the strength to stand on your own 2 feet. And guess what? You didn't give up because the desire to move forward was stronger than the discomfort of falling. Somewhere along the way, as adults, we forget that. We start labeling setbacks as failure instead of understanding that they are simply lessons in disguise. Life's tests are not meant to tell you, you can't do this. They are meant to ask, how much do you really want this? Every time you hit a wall, you're faced with a choice. You can decide that the wall is a dead end, or you can decide that the wall is something to climb over, dig under, or find a way around. And let's be real. The people who keep going, even when it's hard, are the ones who eventually get where they're meant to go. It's not because they were the smartest or the most talented. It's because they refused to quit when life tested them. There's something powerful that happens when you shift your mindset and accept that challenges are normal. Instead of wasting energy asking, why me? You start asking, what can I learn from this? That shift alone changes everything. Suddenly, failure isn't personal. It's educational. Obstacles stop being threats, and they start becoming opportunities. Every challenge is preparing you for the next level. If you want to lead, you're going to be tested on patience and courage. If you want to succeed in business, you're going to be tested on discipline and persistence. If you want love, you're going to be tested on trust and forgiveness. That's the structure of life. Tests are teachers in disguise, and every lesson you learn makes you more equipped for the future you're building. But here's the catch. You only get the lesson if you don't quit halfway. Imagine walking into a classroom, looking at the exam on your desk and saying, this is too hard, I'm out. You don't just miss the grade, you miss the growth. Life works the same way. You don't have to enjoy the test, but you do have to take it. And the people who take it, fail, get back up, and keep trying, those are the ones who get rewarded with wisdom, strength, and eventually success. So if you're in the middle of a test right now, don't mistake it as punishment. Recognize it for what it is, an invitation to grow. It's life's way of saying, I'm preparing you for something bigger than this moment. You might feel like you're breaking down, but you're actually being built up. You might feel like you're stuck, but you're actually being taught patience. You might feel like it's unfair, but maybe it's exactly what you need to become unstoppable. The secret isn't to wish the test away. The secret is to face it, learn from it, and keep moving forward anyway. Because once you understand that life's tests are not meant to defeat you, but to define you, you'll stop giving up when it gets hard. You'll start rising to the challenge, and you'll discover that every single obstacle was never in the way. It was part of the way. Resilience is not something you're either born with or without. It's not some magical gift reserved for a lucky few. It is a muscle. And like any muscle, it can be trained, strengthened, and built over time. Too many people convince themselves that they're just not strong enough, that they don't have what it takes, or that other people simply have better willpower. But the truth is, every single person has the ability to build resilience. It's about habits, choices, and the way you respond to life's difficulties. Think about it. No baby is born with resilience. They cry when they're hungry. They scream when they're uncomfortable. They demand attention. Over time, through falling, failing, and learning, they develop coping skills. That's how resilience begins. And as adults, we continue that same process. It's just that now the tests look different. Every time you face something that pushes you out of your comfort zone, you have two options. You can run from it, or you can face it. Each time you choose to face it, you are teaching yourself that you can handle discomfort. That's resilience in action. When you go through a breakup and you get back up and move forward, you're building resilience. When you fail a project at work and instead of quitting, you try again with new strategies, you're building resilience. When you wake up and don't feel like showing up for your goals, but you do it anyway, you're building resilience. It's in the small decisions, repeated day after day, that resilience is formed. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that resilience is about never feeling pain or struggle. That's not true. Resilient people don't escape pain. They face it head on. They experience disappointment, rejection, and failure just like everyone else, but instead of staying down, they find a way to stand back up. It's not that they are fearless. It's that they've practiced moving forward despite fear. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes. That's why resilience is a skill. You're not born with it, you build it. And you build it by putting yourself in situations that stretch you, by staying in the discomfort long enough to grow through it, and by refusing to let a setback define the rest of your story. Here's the beautiful part. Resilience compounds. Every time you get back up, you add a layer of strength to yourself that no one can take away. Think about a scar. At first, it's painful and raw, but over time it heals, and the skin becomes tougher in that spot. That's exactly what happens with resilience. Every setback you recover from adds a layer of toughness and wisdom to your life. And with each new layer, you become less likely to break when the next challenge comes. What once felt unbearable now feels manageable. And eventually, what used to scare you no longer has power over you. The way to start building resilience is simple but not easy. You have to lean into challenges instead of avoiding them. Start with something small. Push yourself to finish a task even when you don't feel like it. Make that difficult phone call instead of procrastinating. Stick to the commitment you made, even when it's uncomfortable. These small acts of following through train your brain to trust you. They tell your nervous system, I can handle this. I am capable. And over time, your self-belief grows stronger, your ability to handle stress expands, and your resilience becomes second nature. The reason resilience is so powerful is because it changes the way you view problems. Instead of seeing them as signals to stop, you begin to see them as opportunities to grow. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this teaching me? That shift changes everything. Suddenly, life doesn't feel like it's attacking you. It feels like it's training you. And when you approach life like training, you stop being afraid of struggle. You welcome it because you know it's shaping you into someone stronger than you were yesterday. So if you feel weak, if you feel like you can't handle one more obstacle, remind yourself that resilience is not something you lack. It's something you can build. You already have the raw material. The fact that you're still here, that you've survived every single bad day you've had so far, proves that you already have resilience inside you. The question isn't whether you're strong enough. The question is whether you're willing to keep practicing. Because the more you practice, the stronger you'll become, and eventually you'll realize that nothing can break you unless you let it. Life may test you, but with resilience as your skill, you'll always have the power to rise again. Failure is not the end. It's not a label stamped on your forehead. It's not a verdict on your worth. Failure is feedback, and until you start seeing it that way, you'll always be afraid of it. Most people let failure paralyze them. They treat it like proof that they aren't good enough, smart enough, or talented enough. But the truth is, failure is simply data. It's information about what didn't work, and that information is priceless if you choose to use it instead of running from it. The reason so many people quit after failing once or twice is because they think failure defines them. But failure is not final. It's just a step, a clue, a signpost pointing you toward what you need to adjust. Think about the most successful people you admire. Every single one of them has failed, probably more times than they've succeeded. What separates them from those who quit is how they interpret failure. They don't treat it like a wall. They treat it like a mirror. They look at what happened, they learn from it, and then they move forward with new insight. Thomas Edison, for example, didn't fail 1,000 times while inventing the light bulb. He discovered 1,000 ways that didn't work. That's feedback. And without that feedback, he never would have created what changed the world. The problem is that most of us were taught to fear failure. School trained us to think that failing meant shame. Tests, grades, and red marks conditioned us to believe that failure is proof of weakness. But in real life, failure is one of the most powerful tools you can use. It gives you real-world data that no book, no teacher, no lecture can ever provide. The person who fails and keeps going will always outrun the person who never dares to try in the first place. Because trying, failing, and learning is the fastest route to growth. Here's something to understand. Failure only becomes final when you stop learning from it. If you take it personally and let it convince you to quit, then yes, it becomes the end of your journey. But if you choose to see failure as feedback, then it becomes a stepping stone. Each attempt teaches you something you didn't know before. Each setback highlights an area where you can improve. Each rejection forces you to refine your approach. In that way, failure isn't stopping you. It's equipping you. So how do you start using failure as feedback? First, you stop asking, why me? And you start asking, what can I learn from this? Instead of spiraling into self-doubt, you get curious. Why didn't this work? What could I do differently next time? What lesson is hidden here that I couldn't have seen if I hadn't tried? That shift in perspective turns failure into your teacher. And the more you learn from failure, the less scary it becomes. You stop fearing it because you realize it's never actually the end. It's just another step in the process. Another way to embrace failure is to redefine what success means. Success isn't about getting it perfect on the first try. Success is about progress. It's about trying again when most people would have stopped. It's about being willing to risk failure over and over until you figure it out. If you measure yourself by perfection, you'll always feel like a failure. But if you measure yourself by persistence, by the lessons you're gaining, then even your worst mistakes become wins. Think about how children learn. They don't get everything right the first time. They fail constantly when learning to walk, talk, read, or ride a bike. And nobody tells them to stop because they failed once. We cheer them on. We encourage them to keep practicing. We celebrate progress. Imagine if we treated ourselves the same way as adults. Imagine if, instead of beating yourself up after a failure, you said, "Good, I just learned something. Let's try again." That's how you unlock growth. That's how you remove the fear of failure and replace it with curiosity and courage. So the next time you fail, don't let it break you. Don't let it convince you that it's over. Pause, reflect, and take the lesson. Failure is feedback. It's the world giving you clues about how to improve. If you listen, you'll grow. If you keep going, you'll win. But if you give up, you'll never know how close you were to a breakthrough. Remember, failure is never final unless you choose to stop. It's not the end of your story. It's just another chapter, and you're the one holding the pen. The biggest mistake people make when chasing their dreams is thinking they have to do everything at once. They look at the mountain in front of them, and instead of taking the first step, they freeze. They overwhelm themselves with the size of the goal, and they quit before they even start. But the truth is, success is never about giant leaps. It's about small, consistent steps. It's about stacking little wins, one after another, until they build into something unstoppable. Nobody wakes up one morning at the peak of success. They get there by walking the path day after day, step by step, even when those steps feel small and insignificant. Think about how habits work. Brushing your teeth once doesn't matter, but brushing every day creates healthy teeth for life. Going to the gym one time won't change your body, but showing up consistently, even if it's just for 20 minutes, transforms your health over time. Reading a few pages of a book may not seem life-changing, but if you do it daily, you'll have read dozens of books by the end of the year. It's the compounding effect of small actions that creates big results. And that principle applies to every area of your life, your career, your relationships, your personal growth. The problem is, we live in a world that celebrates the big leap. We see headlines about overnight success, viral breakthroughs, people who seem to explode out of nowhere, and we convince ourselves that if we can't make a giant leap, we're not moving fast enough. But here's the reality. Most overnight successes were years in the making. They were built quietly in the shadows by someone who showed up consistently, who kept taking small steps, who refused to quit even when nobody was watching. By the time the world noticed, the foundation was already built. Small steps are powerful because they do two things. They create momentum and they build confidence. When you focus on something manageable, like finishing today's task instead of solving your entire life, you create movement. And once you're moving, it's easier to keep moving. That's momentum. And every time you follow through on a small step, you prove to yourself that you're capable. That proof builds self-trust. Over time, that self-trust becomes confidence. Confidence isn't built by grand gestures. It's built by keeping the little promises you make to yourself. Here's the thing. Giant leaps are rare, but small steps are available to you every single day. You might not be able to change your career overnight, but you can send an email, make a phone call, or spend 20 minutes learning a new skill. You might not be able to fix your health in 1 week, but you can drink more water today, go for a short walk, or choose one healthier meal. You might not be able to rebuild a broken relationship instantly, but you can start with one honest conversation, one act of kindness, one moment of listening. These small steps compound into transformation. And when life tests you, small steps are what carry you through. Because when you're overwhelmed, when you feel like giving up, telling yourself you have to leap the entire distance feels impossible. But telling yourself to just take the next step feels doable. That's how people keep going, even in the hardest seasons. They don't think about the finish line. They think about the next step, and then the one after that, and the one after that. Eventually, those steps add up to a mile, a journey, a transformation they never thought they could achieve. So ask yourself, what is the next small step you can take? Not the perfect step, not the final step, the next step. Maybe it's waking up earlier tomorrow. Maybe it's writing 1 page of your book. Maybe it's saving $5 instead of spending it. Don't underestimate how powerful that tiny action is, because that's how everything starts. 1 step, and then another, and then another. If you're waiting for the perfect moment to make the giant leap, stop. It doesn't exist. The way forward is already under your feet, and it begins with the smallest action you can take right now. Big change is the result of small steps, repeated consistently, especially when it's hard. That's how you build momentum. That's how you create confidence, and that's how you move mountains, one step at a time. Life has a way of testing you hardest right before something incredible is about to happen. Most people don't realize that the moment they feel like quitting is often the exact moment when they're closest to a breakthrough. That's why persistence matters more than almost anything else. You don't need to be the smartest, the most talented, or the most connected. You need to be the person who refuses to stop, because persistence is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. The truth is, life will push you. It will exhaust you. It will make you question yourself, and it will try to convince you to give up. And in those moments when it feels unbearable, that's the test. That's life asking you, how bad do you really want this? Think about all the times you were ready to throw in the towel. You probably told yourself it wasn't worth it, that it was too hard, or that maybe it just wasn't meant for you. But imagine if you had pushed just a little longer, a little harder. How many times have people quit 1 step before their breakthrough? You'll never know what's waiting for you on the other side if you give up too soon. Persistence is about trusting that the effort you put in, even when you can't see results yet, is stacking up behind the scenes. It's like planting seeds. You don't see the roots growing underground, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. With persistence, eventually the growth breaks through the surface, but only if you keep watering it. The problem is that persistence doesn't feel glamorous. It feels repetitive. It feels boring. It feels frustrating when you're working day after day without visible progress. But that's the part nobody talks about. That grind, those quiet days of showing up when nobody is watching, that's where breakthroughs are built. Persistence is staying committed to the process even when the results are invisible. It's saying, I'll keep going, even if I don't feel motivated, even if it's hard, even if it feels like nothing is working. Because the truth is, most progress happens slowly and then all at once. History is full of people who broke through simply because they refused to quit. Think of writers who were rejected by dozens of publishers before one said yes. Think of entrepreneurs who failed in business after business before finding the idea that worked. Think of athletes who trained for years, facing losses, injuries, and setbacks, only to finally achieve victory. These stories are proof that persistence is often the difference between those who make it and those who don't. Not talent, not luck, persistence. And persistence is not just about effort, it's about belief. You have to believe that what you're working toward is possible, even when you don't see proof yet. You have to hold on to that vision when circumstances are screaming at you to let it go. That belief fuels persistence. Without it, you'll quit the moment things get hard. With it, you'll find a way to keep moving, even if all you can manage is one small step forward. Here's the key. Breakthroughs rarely come when you expect them. They come after the nights you cried, after the rejections, after the failures, after the long stretches where nothing seemed to change. They come after you've been stretched to your limits and forced to grow stronger than you thought possible. That's why persistence matters. It transforms you while you wait for the result. The breakthrough is not just the external success, it's the internal transformation of becoming someone who doesn't quit. So the next time you feel like giving up, remember this. Your persistence might be the only thing standing between you and the life you want. You may not be able to see the breakthrough yet, but that doesn't mean it's not on its way. Life will test you, and the hardest test always comes right before the reward. Push through it, stay the course, take one more step, and then another, because your breakthrough isn't behind you, it's ahead of you, waiting for you to prove you're strong enough to reach it.